Now being 11:16, I entertain a motion to return into regular session. And second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, as we left, I believe we had a engineering request, and that project was going to be reworked and returned at a later time. And then we got, are there any other items?
These were the only two items that actually had increases, as Danny explained. So the other 11 are all new.
All right, so I just working with columns here. How many items for reimbursement of previous projects?
Like they're on each one. So, like this specific project would be considered a reimbursement. We've changed the wording on here. I think it had been a little bit confusing, and it said previously budgeted on some of this. So we changed that wording to reimbursement to be a little bit more clear. So specifically, this $1 million project for the Esri Enterprise Agreement with the County Assessor's Office is reimbursement.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I appreciate what you just said, but there is a situation to where it may not be a reimbursement, but it may be a prior budgeted. So if somebody got money in their current budget because they requested money to do a new project and they were given that money, but they haven't moved forward on the project, so they haven't actually spent money on it, then it wouldn't be a reimbursement, but they already have money for it. So I think reimbursement and prior budgeted, I think those are both distinct terms that need to be considered.
We do have the invoices on this one.
Okay.
So that should help with that specific reimbursement piece.
So were they budgeted for this?
Yeah, I think if it's reimbursed, then it would have been budgeted as well because they would have had that money in their budget to pay for it.
Okay, so this
But there is a situation to where it could be budgeted but not a reimbursed.
right.
And
But
this specific piece would be a reimbursement. It's a 3-year contingency on the contract. When the contract is over, the county becomes responsible. So that's something to take into
Right.
consideration.
This
Yeah.
would be $1.10 million per year, correct?
This is over a 3-year process.
This is a 3-year
years.
process.
Yeah.
So it's similar to the way that Commissioner Mon asked for everybody to look into their budgets to find a way to find things that were reimbursable. I believe that's what the assessor has done here. Now, the question that we've had in the past is, does that money go back into general fund or does it go back into their budget? And I don't recall the resolution on that, but I'm pretty sure that if it was budgeted and came out of general fund, I think what we had determined last time is that reimbursement would go back into general fund. And then we've got an account, it's not in here, but we got an account that we're kind of building up, correct? With the 10 million every time we do a reimbursement, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think the question comes about when it's a reimbursement of, say the clerk's office. We were talking about their records preservation fund earlier. If they use the records preservation fund and then want reimbursed, I think that money would have to go back to that fund.
Specifically, the sheriff's office is where we had to determine this because we reimbursed the sheriff's office for some things that were actually special fund and then some things that were general fund. And the general fund went back into or will go back into the general fund Thursday, but the others go back into their special. So we have determined that. I recall that now. So
Well, I think
This
for
one
that
just goes back
reimbursement,
into-
I don't believe the general fund portions of that project were recommended by this board. It was just the special revenue dollars.
That's correct. Right. But that's what we're saying. What I'm saying is at that time, we actually, that determination was made that if it comes from special fund, it has to go back into special fund. If it comes from general fund, it needs to go back into general fund.
I think the one caveat there is if we took money from general fund and put into that fund, then it should come back to general fund. A prime example would be like court services has their indigent ankle monitor service ankle monitoring service for those that are deemed indigent. We move money from general fund into their account to pay for that. If for some reason, and I'm not saying it ever would be, but if it were determined that that was an ARPA related expense and we moved, and we wanted to reimburse that with ARPA, I wouldn't make the argument that that money would be reimbursed and go back into that special account, because we use general fund dollars to put into that account to pay for it.
No, yeah, doing the general fund. It comes out of general fund, it goes back into general fund. If it comes out of special fund, it goes.
But what I'm saying is that reimbursement, the payment would have come from their indigent special revenue fund. Right.
It doesn't matter. I'll make a motion that,
Well, that's important when it comes
policy
to
governance-
other entities like the jail, where we send them money, they're paying for it out of another fund. I think we need to make sure that that caveat is there. That it's not that you cut the check out of general fund, it's that general fund was given to court services or wherever to pay for that.
And with all that said, I think this particular project, we need to come back to possibly tomorrow. If there's,
But to Miles's point, do we know on this, was this paid for out of the assessor's general fund, or is this would this be a reimbursement to other account?
I did ask
Your special
departments,
account.
last week or the week before I sent a breakdown of each of their projects and asked if they could delineate where they came from. Some could, some could not. This one, we did not have a finite answer on which fund it came
Well,
from.
that would.
But maybe we could work with the clerk's office on that.
Because-
The assessor doesn't have special funds. So they only have.
Then it would be.
No, they've got that, the reval account, and I believe some of this ESRI is paid for out of reval. Right? Which that would get very, very interesting, because we're on the hook for 10% of that account. So if there is a reimbursement, where does that go? So I think that one would be definitely interesting to know if this money was paid for out of that.
You're like sparking a 6-month-old memory in my brain from when we met with the assessor's office, because they talked about this 10% thing, and that's why they didn't submit certain other projects, was because of that, which leads me to believe that this wouldn't apply. We could definitely reconfirm that, but as y'all were saying those words, I was like, that is something.
Now, let's just find out where that money came from, because I remember with the breakdown of assessor, sheriff, because that was their big selling point, was the treasurer, commissioners, emergency management, so on and so forth, everybody using this mapping program and being able to use it, and everybody pitching in.
But-
So it was determined that one of those meetings that we would be paying for this out of general, but how much out of general, I'm not sure. And just a basic accounting of where the money has come from or where it will come from is simple. So
What we did was we split that, and so the amount that they had been previously paying, and I think some of that was out of that reval account, that they were still gonna pay that amount there, but then the additional amount to get the whole county on board, that's where we added this. So I don't know if this 1,010,000 is the whole amount for the ESRI contract, or if it's just the amount that general fund is paying. I think we need to,
do a basic accounting.
yeah.
we'll review this again tomorrow when some folks can answer some of those questions. Next, reimbursement.
So we don't have them in order of reimbursement. This is the stormwater master drainage plan, but it is not the reimbursement. This is something that is considered an eligible use, and we've gone back and forth on. The P&G just hasn't made a decision either way on archiving or moving it forward.
And is this an item subject to increases of inflation? And not seeing Stacy to answer that, let's review that tomorrow.
This would not be a reimbursement either. This is a capital project for the Annex Asbestos.
And is that for, in the theory of tackling all the rest of abatement for this building?
That would be from the basement to the 5th floor. That would be absolute total abatement, which Keith and I have debate on abatement, on whether or not encapsulation, but versus abatement could happen. And that would be a Department of Labor determination and not one of ours. I think this is absolutely something, if it qualifies, that we need to look at. Secondarily, we need to have a plan from the Department of Labor of what we can encapsulate versus what we have to abate, because the cost and the speed are completely different. It's a whole lot cheaper to encapsulate, and it's a whole lot faster.
We've not priced encapsulation.
Right.
But the $6 million, that figure was based on the expenditure we made on the sixth floor, which
was 2 years
is
ago.
2 years, right. So you can expect additional sums of money required to accomplish this there.
Okay, but he mentioned basement to the 5th floor. Are there not parts of this building that have already been abated?
No.
Well, wait a second. Yes. The 6th floor.
The sixth floor,
No.
except for the enclosures of the
Jury
columns.
assembly.
Jury assembly has not been abated,
What was done to it?
Encapsulated?
not encapsulated. The only encapsulation left in the building are portions of the mechanical spaces on 6.
Okay.
My concern, well, one of my major concerns with this particular project is we've got so many projects that we're looking at doing here. I just don't know how you get everything done in the short time frame that we have. I know if we did, I think there was an item on here for the 4th floor for the court clerk. I think if we're doing work there, then of course we look at abatement or encapsulation on that floor, and that would be part of that particular project. But to take on other floors that we're not doing anything, when we're going to be involved in the 1st floor for the remodel, we're going to be involved in, the 3rd floor, we're going to be involved in multiple areas. I just wonder, are we going to be able to get all of those projects done in the timeline?
Probably not. This figure also does not contemplate or take into consideration the relocation of those offices and to where and at what cost when any kind of an abatement effort is made. If you recall, we removed and relocated the public defender in its entirety, District 1 and District 3, from the 6th floor when the abatement took place.
Well, some of the biggest areas of abatement need in the past, and guys, correct me if you remember something different, but from infrastructure were the columns, because of the reverberation of some of the piping and stuff in those columns. Right?
No, the columns were left because they were enclosed. They were in effect encapsulated by the plaster and lath that surrounded them.
What was the issue that we had with the shaking and it was breaking stuff free?
That was the initial problem we had on the 6th floor roof when we used vibratory equipment to remove the old roofing. When that took place, that's how the asbestos became friable. The same thing anytime you do any remodel that requires using vibratory tools of any kind has the potential to dislodge and make friable asbestos that's nearby.
That's the conversation, that last piece. That's what I'm talking about that we've had in the past and worried about that area in the columns. So maybe
In the columns that you're talking about is when we went through and actually sleeved one of the drains on the east side of the building. We had the kind of the rotor thing that had the little chains on it that actually went through and knocked off all of the burring and rust onto that pipe, and then we came through.
we
and
cambered the
sleeved it.
others.
And
Yeah.
that was what we were worried about at that time was that piece of equipment was actually going to shake loose some of the
Right.
asbestos in that particular column. Now, not all of those drains run in through a column.
Yes, they do.
Every single one of them does?
Every roof drain is enclosed within a column, and the issue was the
Okay.
overspray.
Yeah.
The overspray
It
that
was
occurred.
on to the piping.
Right, and then since
But they're
those
all within-
drains all run through there, the leaks and whatever is there, and then like in the HR area where you're having to get into that column and there's asbestos, I'm just suggesting that if we don't do the full asbestos abatement or encapsulation, maybe we look at those areas, which would not require moving entire work groups to different areas, but maybe taking care of those areas.
And then one last question on this. So when this room was remodeled, we didn't do anything with asbestos abatement.
We did not abate. When we removed the ceiling and removed what air conditioning systems were here, our asbestos team came through and HEPA-vac and cleaned according to DOL instructions and plan before we remodeled here. But the
Okay.
asbestos above the ceiling is still in place.
All right, thank you for that. And then we're gonna move this project to right after that one we just moved as well.
This is the fourth floor
Yeah,
remodel.
move by. I'm not even gonna.
This is for the jury pavilion for the court clerk's office.
Now let's walk through this. The pavilion is where and how high was it gonna be?
So this would be in between. Currently, when we have jury selection, or y'all have jury selection, they are making use of the tunnels, it sounds like, because it gets kind of congested. So there's not allowing for the adequate social distancing. So this would be just outside the south exterior door into the jury assembly.
And we're just looking at a roof concept, or we're gonna
Yeah,
have,
it's just kind of like a coverage.
Just like a shed roof on the backside.
and how does that affect our moving equipment, cranes and materials through the alley?
The way I understand it, it'll actually not extend past the curb that is currently out there. So as far as, we have to be careful because we can't encroach upon easements and stuff, although would be considered a temporary structure.
So it's more of a lean-to than a pavilion?
Well, okay, sure. Yes.
Then I'm gonna entertain a motion, we archive this one.
Just, and I'm probably not thinking of it correctly, but I'm just curious if they're gonna utilize that instead of the tunnel. The tunnel's to spread people out to come through security to get to jury assembly, but if instead of having them there, they're gonna have them in that area, is that what you're talking about? But they won't have gone through security, so they'll already have access
No, they do.
to go in
So-
there or here. How
The concept is when they do a process there in the jury assembly room, before they move on to whatever courtroom, there's a gathering and instructions.
right?
And that's done out in the alley under whatever weather. Yesterday was nice and sunny and a good temperature, but that's one day out of the year.
That was my understanding of what they were doing. What I think you described was that instead of them going through the tunnel to come in, that they were going to be over here.
The tunnel is just to like keep people out of the way.
Right, but that's to come into security. So I don't think that would change any of this because the tunnel is to spread them out before they come in and go through security. So I think, and I just didn't know if the plan had changed. It sounds like maybe it hasn't. They'll still utilize that, but then afterwards they can spread them out there. I still like Miles' idea of shutting down the road in front of the building and being able to utilize that space.
Okay, but that's not involved with this project.
No, let's just leave this one here for a second.
All right, so we're gonna keep that in the rotation.
Yeah, please.
The next is meeting room upgrades for the county clerk's office. The total request is the 86 million, but thousand, sorry.
Yeah.
But the 28,000 is what is reimbursed from the general fund specifically.
So the reimbursement's only 28,750.
The rest was from their special revenue.
So 40,000 approximately does what? Continued upgrades to,
So this has already been done. This has already been purchased. This would be, depending on how you, if you wanted to fund it, it would be based on how you want the reimbursements to go. So if you funded it at the full amount, then there's a portion of it that would go to special revenue. If you only funded the general fund amount, it would be the $28,000, 870. And this is specifically for like audio visual equipment that they purchase for online meetings and things
which
like
is
that.
stuff we would have been doing anyway. I moved to,
Refund the $28,870 to the general fund?
okay, that's not my motion. Go ahead.
No.
Well, you're saying all this at this point is reimbursement? I'm
You
seeing
can-
this 28,000. That's what's confusing me.
So the 28,000 is for the general fund. If you reimburse the whole project, the portion outside of the 28,000 goes to special revenue fund when it's broken down. But if you only approve of the 28,870, that goes back to general fund.
Yeah, I'm up for archiving this one.
$60,000 increase for juvenile. Be nice to get 30,000 of it back into the general fund from our.
Well, I don't think,
I mean, I know that.
we're playing a shell game here at the point where, I think we're just rotating dollars around. And it's not going to the primary concern, which would be to help with reconstruction of, or construction of a new jail. So
If it gets in the general fund, you can move it from general fund into any.
well, if the budget board remembers they selected to do that, put this back in the rotation of items to review.
This is the electronic online certification project. It is a reimbursement, but it is coming out of the special revenue fund. All of it was paid out of that fund. So it's a reimbursement in the sense that money is coming back, but not to general fund. None of these dollars would fall into general fund.
I'll make the motion to archive.
Second.
Motion is second to archive project 10052, 49,500. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you.
This is for the drainage culvert inventory. It is not a reimbursement. This would be a new project.
At this point, put that into rotation.
This is related to the elevators at the detention center. As you guys know, they recently had another one go offline. Someone was actually stuck in it when it went down. So this would be the request for elevators on them, not a reimbursement, and it is a full replacement of the elevators.
Did you say you were stuck in it?
No, I think I would have a panic attack. That is probably my biggest fear.
right,
Luckily,
this-
not me.
It's a little hatch at the top that I would not fit through, but
I've thought through the scenario. If I'm in an elevator, I'm gonna tear it apart. Don't worry.
All right, so is this the one they were talking about, or is this a second one?
This will be the full replacement of the elevators going through the basement through the
Not this
13th floor.
project, but the one that you said was down.
This
They
is
have
the new
told
one
me-
that went down.
So they have two down?
Yeah, I think this one went down when we were talking with Mandy 2 weeks ago.
All right. And this is our building that we have to maintain until it's not our building anymore, so.
well, if that's the case, is our facilities director in here? Keith, have you done any inquiries into what repairs are available, timelines and whatnot on this?
I was unaware that we had elevators down there.
I mean, my biggest issue, I understand that they have to continue to operate and we need to do what we can to help that out and make sure that the facility is workable to the greatest extent possible. But we are also looking at pouring tens of millions of dollars into a new facility to get going here in short order. So how much do we throw
would
into
question-
these types of
I would question the sum
items?
of money here because I believe they have 8 elevators over there.
I think
And
this
the
is
numbers that I got to replace elevators here several months ago was right at $1 million per elevator, and I'm sure that's gone up since.
Is this just for the 3 that are on the secured side? Is what, yeah, that's what my understanding was.
That would make more sense.
Yeah.
This is the 3 on the secured side, of which is a huge safety issue. It's a medical issue since our forefathers were brilliant in their development of a medical floor on the top floor. We continuously have issues, and we've got to get these addressed. I mean, this addresses more than just elevators. It addresses the healthcare. It addresses the moving people around safely in the deal in a timely manner. It just the question is, how much are we going to spend on that building?
Well, and how long
As
will it
much as
take
it
to get
takes.
those on board? I mean, if it's gonna be a 3-year process or a 2.5-year process like it is for us over there in the courthouse, then are we not even getting, 1 or 2 of them online until almost immediately before they move out?
I think the difference in a 1940s elevator versus a more modern elevator, the issues is over here are they're having to hand make a bunch of the stuff. It's not a standard deal. Over there, we're standardized, and everything's pretty much swap out, move forward. I'm trying to confirm that now, but
So I'm wondering if
But
we
what
could-
would it look like if this project moved forward, but let's say it takes, like in our scenario, it was taking like 12 months to 18 months per shaft to put in an elevator. And if we get to, if we complete elevator number 1 in 12 months, and elevator number 2 is completed month 13 through 24, we might not even need that 3rd elevator. And with the way pricing goes, that might just cover the 2 elevators.
Yeah, but to Miles' point, with these being more of the modern variety, you're not having to manufacture parts, so are parts out there and available, and can we fund maybe having parts and extra parts even on hand to be able to fix these things as they go down instead of going to the expense of replacing them, when I'm assuming any facility that we build new is not going to have an elevator, a secured elevator in it, because all the talk has been a 1-story unit. So, and I don't know what the Facebook Marketplace is for an elevator. Keith? to be
This
able to
number's
sell.
2 years old. I have the regional director for Kone on the phone, and that was given 2 years ago, I believe.
for what?
The 3.6. Yeah, call me back.
And Mandy did let us know, like, any of the projects at detention center over $50,000, so pretty much most of them, they must go to bid rather than just a quote, so just something to be aware of.
Can we get Mandy here tomorrow?
She is out of office.
About Dale?
Yeah, I'm sure we could get him here.
Okay. Whomever, I'd like to know a little bit more about this project. So with that, we'll just keep it. We're keeping it.
Or rotate that through the system.
This is for their network infrastructure upgrade. It is not a reimbursement. This is kind of like a modernization of their systems. So the upgrades would allow for the continuation of the remote meetings. It's just helping to advance the continual growth of the environment, and adapting the technologies to a more modern system. But it is not a reimbursement.
We'll discuss that with them when they're here tomorrow.
Yeah, and I would like to see a breakdown of, I mean, that's $1.8 million for virtual meetings and that kind of stuff. That I'd like to see a breakdown on what that is.
I do think part of that has to do with an FTE, so that would be something we would want them to
Well,
address with y'all.
so
With a what?
with an FT, with a new position, I mean, this says one-time cost. If there's a new position,
They
that-
said that they could take the cost after, like, of that person's salary after the fact.
they're telling us that they can't afford the employees that they currently have. So I don't know how that's. Yeah, no. I mean, there's an ongoing cost associated with
Sure.
it.
Well,
Whether they're absorbing it or them absorbing it is by the county giving them funding.
Funds.
So
This is for their security camera upgrades. This is only a partial reimbursement at the time because we only have invoices through July, so it's about half. This is this upgraded their cameras. The cameras have already been implemented. It upgraded their cameras with the COVID-19 tracing softwares, and capability of following individuals through the facility in that way.
But this whole project is eligible for
Due to contact,
reimbursement?
yeah, due to the contact tracing, it is an eligible expense, and then due to the reimbursement piece of it. But so far they've only invoiced through July. We only have their invoices through July, so we only have half. That's why I put partial on there because they'll still be invoicing through it for the next 6 months or so.
I think if we took action on this today, the appropriate amount would be the 200,000, which is what's already spent.
Yeah, it's already been spent.
Yeah, but the problem is, even though it's encumbered, they may not spend all of that. They may not need that much, or they may spend more. They may, have cost escalation or whatever. So
we can ask that of them tomorrow as well. Let's rotate that one as well.
This is for COVID-19 testing. They are still testing inmates when they come into the facility, and are doing so until given direction otherwise. And this would be a full reimbursement. It's 3,200 COVID tests that they paid for.
Motion to recommend to Board of County Commissioners approval for project 10081 at the amount of 171,024.
Miles, where would your reimbursement money go?
What we've been doing is putting it into general each time that we've done this.
Well, if
What
the
if they do
detention
it?
center has spent this on COVID testing, surely they didn't budget for COVID testing, so that came out of some other part of their budget.
That the county gave them the money
Correct.
For other operations other than what they're being asked to do, so.
But knowing they came to us with a 3.1 million ask,
I mean, I'm fine with this going over to the jail.
Let's just do it this way. So I'll amend my motion to include sending the 171,024 to the detention center and their funds.
When we talked with the accountant at the detention center, they said their special revenue comes from commissary sales, GTL phone, Social Security, Oklahoma Department of Corrections, municipalities, bail bonds, and incarceration fees. So that's where their special revenue is coming from, at least in like little buckets. However, they did indicate that drilling down backwards, like it all gets bucketed into one fund. Like it all gets drawn into one bank account, and then they pull it from that bank account. So they indicated it would be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to delineate which funds came from which thing that was used for which
Well,
thing.
then what you could do is you could look at the total revenue that they got and compare that to the revenue from the county, and say the county revenue was 92% of their revenue, then you could take 92% of that number, and that would go back to county general fund, and the remainder would go as a credit to their other accounts. I just think it's double dipping. I mean, we gave them money for operations last year, and they used that money for operations. I think that comes back, yeah, that should come back to general fund. Then on their expenses for this year that are COVID related, we use ARPA money to send to them to fund those new expenses.
But as far as this year goes, we don't know what that number would be.
They've got a number for the COVID amendment piece to their medical contract. To this, I don't know. They may just have an estimate, but
Yeah, so for the COVID amendment, we have it as a separate project, and they do have that projected forward looking, and it's 12,391 per month for the COVID amendment. They have several COVID related items: this, gloves, masks, that are continued costs.
yeah.
So I'll push my motion.
Second. So in their current year request for COVID, you're saying 144,000 approximately?
I think it was 148 and change.
For the COVID-19 amendment, it's 123,916 for the COVID-19 amendment specifically. And then there is, oh, here. So they have a PPE cost that's at 71. If we would wanted to include the deep cleaning, it's under, just barely under 5. The COVID amendment is 123. Gloves just under 10, and then mask under $1,000. But all of that would be a COVID related expense.
And, well, for this one you got on the board, that's a reimbursement, or that's something for this year?
This is a reimbursement. They have already purchased the 6,000 masks.
All right, let's get back on the project number I was moving. We have a motion, a second for
Project 10081 at the cost of $171,024 to be reimbursed to the Oklahoma County Detention Center.
Thank you, Miles. All those favors? Oh, more further discussion?
Yeah, I'm gonna vote no on this just because I want to be consistent, and I think this reimbursement should come back to the county, and then we can make a separate decision on whether to send a like sum over to them. But for consistency purposes, I think it should come back here.
Fair enough.
So I'm a no.
All those vote the way you want to. Aye.
No.
This is for the detention center's PPE. This just runs through September 2021 through April of 2022. So these costs have already, come down to the facility. So this is a reimbursement for the PPE. This included disposable gloves used by staff to clean their cells and things like that as well.
Motion to approve 10083 to the tune of $71,617 to be reimbursed to the Oklahoma County Detention Center.
Motion and second.
And I will be a no on this for the same reason that I mentioned on the previous item.
Sure. Motion and second before us. Vote as you want. Aye.
No.
This is for the quarantine pod at the detention center. So this is what they're utilizing when they bring in new residents of the facility. These costs are from January through May of 2022. And this was for including things like 100 new mats, 100 new sheets, 100 new blankets, and those types of things every time they bring in the individuals, and laundering their clothing that they're brought in with, and then putting them into their own boxes while they've already been washed and cleaned and been rid of any form of COVID-19 that might have been on them.
Motion to approve 10084 at the cost of $58,530 to be reimbursed to the Oklahoma County Detention Center.
Uh,
Recommended to the BOCC. To be approved.
I second that motion. We have a motion, a second, for item 10084. Vote as you need. Aye.
Aye.
This is for the live scan fingerprint that they have at the detention center. This again is a reimbursement. They already own the machine. So they utilize the machine to expedite the intake process. They're able to fingerprint using it rather than kind of holding the inmate's hand, the officer having to hold their hand and do the fingerprinting themselves.
Motion to recommend to BOCC that we reimburse item 10087 at a cost of $17,577 to the Oklahoma County. There you go.
Second. Motion is second to recommend 10087. Vote as you need. Aye.
This is for their full body scanner machine. Again, they already own this. They use it during the intake process. An individual physically stands on the machine and it goes through a scanning process so that they don't have to necessarily go through a physical pat down and have a little bit less close contact with the inmates during that process.
They used to have a machine like that, so they just upgraded it.
Yeah, this one's more in line with the airport. They're catching all sorts of drugs and stuff that are trying to be smuggled in as well. This is a whole lot newer, more advanced technology. Motion to recommend to Board of County Commissioners the approval of item 10088, the reimbursement for $137,500 to the Oklahoma County Detention Center.
Once again, I think this is a good project, a great idea. I think it was already paid for from county funds. I think the appropriate thing would be a reimbursement back to general fund and then a request from the trust to send money over to them from the amount that we've already received in reimbursement, but not to go directly over to there. So I'm a no.
Okay. Motion is second for item 10088. Vote as you need. Aye.
No.
This is a reimbursement for deep cleaning of the facility. They pay for an outside company to come in and clean the facility using medical grade cleaners. They have indicated now that the pods have been cleaned that the employees will be able to maintain upkeep of the cleaning at this point.
Let's put that one in. That one, probably one of the. I'm just curious about it.
I'm amped to archive this one.
All right. This is for the
Well,
COVID.
hang on. We didn't, there was no decision on that.
You want to make a motion?
I mean, why are we,
I assume he just wanted to see it again tomorrow.
I want to ask him about it. Find out what was done, what was used, how deep this cleaning was, what all entailed. I mean, $4,900 seems like a pretty good price. And I'd like to get that same company to come over here and do a deep clean if I could. Right. So I'm just kind of curious as to what was done,
I mean,
what efforts were taken, and I think it'd be nice to have a little bit more information on this one.
I will say that I would be a no on approval of this for the same reason that I have been on the others. However, if we're approving the others, I don't know why we wouldn't approve this one. I mean, it's right in line with those other COVID related expenses. But I mean, if Miles is wanting to get more information tomorrow, I of course support getting more information. But
All right, put that back in rotation.
This is for the COVID-19 amendment, and I put forward looking in the reimbursement because they have projected it out for the full cost per month, which per month is $12,391 and some change.
well, and I think, I don't know how much this is a projection because I think this is part of their contract. So I think they've included that as a contract expense. This is an item that has not been previously budgeted, not been previously spent. I will move approval a recommendation to BOCC to pay for this going forward. I'm happy with the process on this one.
Yeah, they let us know this comes from the district judge requirement to continue with testing until further notice. So it all builds in together.
Well, whatever the reasoning is there, I know it's it's part of their contract that they've already signed. They need funding for it for this fiscal year, and so I'm supportive of this one.
There's a motion and second to approve 10098. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This is for COVID medical claims. We have previously approved a project in this nature, so it follows the same pattern. This is specifically for reimbursement of COVID-19 related paid medical claims. So these claims have already been paid out. This is from June to July of 22. We are planning on meeting with the Benefits and Retirement Department this afternoon to talk through a projection moving forward of what these costs might look like. So obviously this, as I said, only goes from June to July, but then kind of creating a number to look forward throughout the rest of the year as well.
And then on ARPA dollars for reimbursing COVID cost, theoretically that could go through till the last month of what ARPA.
Mhm.
So in those numbers you're going to discuss with him tomorrow, I say we put this in rotation for this discussion tomorrow. And then you'll have those updated numbers.
Well, if I could, so when John or his staff provides you with information on this, are you looking back through any of those paid claims and doing any of those verifications, or is it? I mean, what's your process on that?
So he does pull for us a spreadsheet that has the specific billing on it. We do not have individuals' information and things like that due to HIPAA. There are constraints in how far we can drill down into, but we are able to pull what the Benefits and Retirement Office is considering a COVID claim.
Okay, and they've provided that information to us in the past. I'm just asking, are you then looking at that and analyzing all of those to make sure that they qualify?
There would be no way to know.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
that's what I thought. So really, it's one of those that they're providing that information, and from an auditing standpoint on the back end, it'll be getting with our TPO or whoever to verify that stuff later. We're getting the information from them, right? So I think, you know, if we approve this, I don't necessarily know that I think we should look at having an amount put into an account for that purpose. And then on BOCC, if John has, after this 329, if he has $400,000 or $500,000, we don't necessarily have to, you know, go through all of the, you know, the hoops and stuff with that one, because there's a process on those. Does that make sense?
We want to get the general number from him, like what he's been projecting per month, so that we can make a bucket for that, and then they would draw down from
Okay.
it, and then would submit the required information through the Munis portals and things like that.
Okay, well, I think that the bucket is going to be something a little bit different than this, because this is a known expense. The bucket is forward looking. So, I mean, if you don't mind, Michael, I would make a recommendation on this one for the 329,185, and then also have discussion tomorrow about the projection going forward.
Where's that money going? In your motion?
Well, it would go to employee benefits. That's where the expenses were paid from.
Reimbursement, similar cares, and to a previous project that we had that's already.
Yes, the P&G committee has previously approved a COVID medical claims from Benefits and Retirement.
Right. All right, so that was your motion?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Motion second for project 10099 in the amount of 329,185. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Well, it'll go.
That's why I was saying that.
It'll
Cody.
go into the employee
Reimbursement.
benefits account.
It's a reimbursement.
It goes, all of
What's it
these,
mean?
if it's not stated, the money goes to where it was paid from. I mean, And all of these claims were paid from the employee benefits account. I don't think we've, in the past, like on this one, we haven't designated saying that it's gonna go there. I think the reason why we've done it today is because there's been some wonky ones that we're not reimbursing who actually gave the money for it. So it's just been a little different, but
I just wanted to comment, excuse me, on as far as like digging into the documentation. That's part of the conversation we want to have with John tomorrow and understanding what players he has there, and also talk through, the way this type of situation is typically approached is by pulling a sample of the transactions.
okay.
So we're not going to go line by line and look at every single one, but that's something we'll talk through with him tomorrow
Okay.
and work out.
Sounds good.
This is for the detention center, a reimbursement of their gloves. So this is kind of all going along with the things that we've previously approved. This is an expense they weren't necessarily prepared for, and they're using the gloves to help spread or help prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Motion to recommend to BOCC the approval of item 10100 for the amount of $9,477 to be reimbursed to Oklahoma County Detention.
Second. We have motion and second on project 10100. Vote as you need. Aye.
No.
This is for the disposable face masks that they purchased. This was for 6,000 masks.
Motion to recommend to BOCC the approval, the binary item 10101, the approval for $780 to be refunded to the Oklahoma County Detention.
Second. Motion and second for item 10101. $780. All the vote as you need. Aye.
No.
This is one of the newer ones. It is from the Social Services Office. This is specifically related to cremations for COVID-related deaths of indigent community members. So this is a cost that the department took on for these cremations because these individuals didn't have necessarily a family that could cover those costs for them.
You're making changes. Their submitted policy, or did we vote to send that forward?
Per item?
Oh, we actually
Yeah.
said to send it to the district attorney for legalities on the policy.
Uh-huh. And this was for one burial?
No. This is, I believe that it was 7.
You paid for this out of your budget already?
Correct. So it was already in our budgeted amount for doing the burial and cremation program. We've had 7 cases COVID related in the time frame to this point. So that's what the amount is. So.
This is just to pay for those that have already been done. Yeah. And just for further explanation, on this one, you have a general fund account, but when we reimburse this general fund expense that you already paid for, this money doesn't come directly into your general fund budget. It goes into general fund to be budgeted back. So if you wanted that additional money into your budget, you would ask for it. I mean, that's how that process is. And that's what I've been trying to explain on the detention center, that it would be the same way that if we approve this for you, it would come back to county general and not go directly into your budget. Just like if we approve this one, it's not going directly back into your budget. If we do it for juvenile, it doesn't go back into their budget. Now, if they have expenses and they say, hey, we overspent last year because of X, Y, and Z, and we need you to consider that and give it to us. Now we've got this money sitting here that we can re-budget and we can make that separate decision. So
Okay.
I just want to explain so that people understand that I'm trying to be consistent. So
Is that your motion?
I will move the item. I will move a recommendation of reimbursing County General Fund $2,205 for this social services related expense.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for item 10105. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. We're really close to the end.
Promise?
Yes, we are going to skip over this one. The department wanted to spend a little bit more time on it. And then the next two I would recommend to archive. This is from the detention center. It is for mop sink repairs and upgrades. The mop sinks in the housing pods don't have running water. And so they aren't able to use them in order to then clean. Unfortunately, based on the way we have interpreted final rule, that this is not considered likely eligible. We did look under the different programs that are offered underwater, but most of them have to do with clean drinking water. It's not necessarily about allowing for water to just come into an area for a cleaning service. And on top of that, generally the enhancements that are supposed to be made, the way that they're reading it, is they're supposed to be identified to maintain a specific level of providing water to specific communities. So we just don't read it as necessarily being an eligible.
Move to archive 10108.
I thought that the detention center, when they requested CARES money, that was one of their projects that they requested CARES money for, like 2 years ago. Yeah.
Second.
Motion and second to archive 10108. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
And then the last one is
Sorry.
for,
Denied. Go ahead.
this is the last one, and it was for touchless faucets at the detention center. For the juvenile bureau, apologies. This is kind of one of those ones, again, that we would recommend to archive. Archive is not explicitly prohibited or permitted, but it does not necessarily fall within prevention in a congregate setting in the way that you would want, because you have to have proportional response to COVID, and replacing the faucets because they are required to be turned on and then using a touchless faucet is not necessarily a proportional response to COVID.
Move to archive 10109. Motion is second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
That takes care of proposals that were pending, other than the things we have triaged, which we won't touch on at this time, unless there are some questions.
All right, with that note, and some of these things going to be reviewed tomorrow, entertain a time of, my understanding, there's a meeting tomorrow morning here, but the consultants still may be in the area at 1:30 if we recess until 1:30. Is that correct? I entertained the motion.
I'll make the motion.
So the motion is to recess until tomorrow at 1:30. Okay. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to recess this meeting till 1:30 tomorrow.
In the same room.
Yes, please. All those in favor say aye. Aye.